The May 3rd regular meeting of the Mason County Boards of Commissioners. Do I turn this on? There we go. Okay, we are on the record now. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. We have our Clerk of the Courts, Ginger Brooks, here. Would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Brooks. Just acknowledging we have a local elected official of our city commissioner, Kathy McDowell. Welcome here. We have the roll call, please.
Commissioner District 1, Randy Netherland.
Here.
Commissioner District 2, Tim Sheldon.
I am here.
Commissioner District 3, Terry Jeffries.
Here. Correspondence and organizational business. Can you please report the correspondence received by the commission?
Sure. The Liquor and Cannabis Board sent a special occasion application for North Mason Rotary Club and marijuana license applications for the Ruckus Group, Marijuana Mart, and New Day Growery, and noticed that Prana has discontinued sales of marijuana on March 24, 2016. The Economic Development Council sent their first quarter report. Barry Fisher applied for the Noxious Weed Control Board, and Ken Nelson sent a letter regarding ATVs on county roads.
Thank you. Next, we have a news release regarding a vacancy on our Planning Commission of Barbara Adkins.
Mason County is seeking applicants from Commissioner Districts 1, 2, or 3 for the Mason County Planning Advisory Commission. The Planning Advisory Commission is a 7-member citizen board appointed to advise the Board of Commissioners on policy related to amendments to the Comprehensive Plan, the Shoreline Master Program, and land use regulations. The Commission typically meets once per month on the third Monday at 6 p.m. with special meetings scheduled as necessary. Appointed commissioners normally serve a 4-year term. The term for this position will expire July of 2018. Applications to serve on the board are being accepted until the position is filled and should be submitted to the Mason County Commissioners, 411 North 5th Street, Shelton, Washington, 98584. Application forms may be obtained at the Commissioner's office, 427-9670, extension 419, or by visiting our website.
Thank you. We have a news release also regarding our transportation element of the County Comprehensive Plan. Melissa McFadden or Dave Smith, our transportation engineer in our Public Works Department.
Dave Smith, Mason County Public Works Department. Public comment is invited on the draft transportation element of the County Comprehensive Plan. Mason County invites the public to comment on its draft transportation element of the County Comprehensive Plan. An open house is planned to present the draft plan on Saturday, May 14th, 2016, at 2 times and locations. 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock at the North Mason Timberland Library at 23081 Northeast State Route 3 in Belfair, and from 2 to 4 at the Community Transit Building, 601 West Franklin Street in Shelton. The Planning Advisory Commission will also hold a public hearing to take comments on the draft transportation plan Monday, May 16th, 2016, from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Commissioners' Chambers, Mason County Building 1, 411 5th Street, Shelton. The open houses are designed for people to drop in, talk with planning team members about the plan, get answers to questions, and provide comments. These comments will be forwarded to the Planning Advisory Commission as part of the public testimony. The transportation element of the County Comprehensive Plan sets the stage for transportation system needs within Mason County. The goal and policies outlined in the plan create a framework from which detailed transportation decisions can be made. This is the first significant transportation plan update since 2008. The draft plan can be found in the reference section at local libraries and on the Mason County website.
Thank you. I do encourage people to, if they can, attend these meetings and/or just bring in comment. Your transportation needs are really important to this plan, and it also informs our land use planning. So we would like very much to hear what you think are priorities regarding transportation countywide. Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I make a comment
Please.
about that too? So the plan looks like that, if you have it in paper, but it's going to be an interesting process. As was mentioned by staff, we haven't updated this plan in a long time. And in the plan, on page 43, it talks about the Belfair bypass, which is about $76 million. Big project. But it talks about where these connector roads might be, and that's a very controversial subject. So please weigh in and make your views heard. The bypass will parallel the railroad tracks, also known as the U.S. Navy Railroad. So there's going to be some interaction with the armed forces on that as well. So please come to these meetings and read the plan. This is going to be a big one. Thank you.
Thank you. This first week of May is the National Correctional Officers and Employees Week. And I have a proclamation to read, and this is probably one of the better proclamations I've ever read. And if it doesn't make you cry and have respect the people that do this very difficult job, then you have no heart. Whereas Mason County is committed to public safety through professional service, and correctional officers and employees are some of the most capable, committed, patient, and persistent professionals in our county. Whereas correctional officers and employees are brave individuals who put their lives and their health at risk every day to keep the public safe and provide a multitude of services in the criminal justice system. Whereas, though the jobs of correctional employees are often very challenging and stressful, those who work in the corrections profession perform their duties well and with great pride. Whereas correctional officers and employees have a tremendous responsibility and are often overlooked or underappreciated and frequently scrutinized, yet they continue to serve honorably and excel. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Mason County Board of Commissioners commend all those that serve in the corrections profession and proclaim the first week of May 2016 as National Correctional Officers and Employees Week, and recognize correctional officers and employees for their service, commend them for the tremendous job they do, and for the exceptional performance of duties under the most difficult of circumstances. And hear, hear for that. We have our interim jail chief, Ryan Sperling, here, and then the director of our juvenile detention services, Jim Madsen. If you could come to the podium, and I have like to present this proclamations to you and invite you to share a little something that we should know about the work that your staff does. Sperling, thank you so much, Jim.
Good morning, commissioners and members of the public. I just want to say that when we talk about our staff from the juvenile perspective, they are called detention officers, and that officer term sometimes has some thoughts around it that people have of what they think an officer is. But just to give you an idea, the great people that we have working in our detention center are mentors, big brothers, big sisters, mom, dad figures, grandparent type figures. They're there to screen for mental health issues, early look at medical issues to make the right referral. They're there to counsel, to help with education, and I think that gets lost sometimes when we talk about what an officer is. And everything in the proclamation is absolutely correct. These are great people that are truly there to help rehabilitate these kids, and there's a lot of hats that they wear. So thank you very much, and I will pass this along to them and let them know what great work that they do over there. So thanks.
Thank you, Jim.
First of all, thank you so much for recognizing them. As you said, sometimes they are kind of overlooked. I've been on the law enforcement side for many, many years, and I just recently got introduced to a much greater level to the corrections side, and I've gained a complete new respect for what it is that they do. I've always been able to go and deal with somebody and then give them to the corrections people. And I just have to deal with them from the time I arrest them to the time I drop them off. But they are the ones that have to walk them through coming down from narcotics or alcohol or whatever it is sometimes that they're under the influence of. And they'll deal with somebody one moment that's belligerent and doing unspeakable things and saying unspeakable things, and then they have to go the very next moment to an inmate who just lost a family member and be compassionate. After they've just been insulted to their very core by this individual, they have to switch hats and go over there, and then they have to go to a cell and deal with somebody who's, it's just amazing what they do, and they truly are underappreciated because we don't really know. It's kind of one of those hidden worlds. And until you've been there, and I've even been around it all my career, until you've been there, you truly can't appreciate it. But I do appreciate what they do, and thank you so much for recognizing them. And I'll put this up in the jail so that they can all see it and make sure they all hear your appreciation.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the work you do.
Madam Chair, I just want to mention too, we do have a wonderful staff here at the county that we're familiar with and don't get as much recognition as they deserve. But we also in the county have a great staff out at Washington's Corrections Center and also at Mission Creek, our corrections officers there. So we do have a lot of corrections people here in Mason County at the state and local level, and I know that they interact as well and know each other in the community, and it makes us a safer place out in the community as well.
On the way in, when was introduced to an applicant for one of our open positions. We do have difficulty recruiting female jail officers, and so thank you for your interest in the position, and do encourage folks that are, women especially, that are interested in this profession to please step up and apply. Give it a shot. It's probably rewarding in the end, I'm guessing. Next on the agenda is our open forum for citizen input. This is an opportunity to address the commission on any items that are not on the agenda. If you'd like to address the commission, please raise your hand. You'll be recognized. Step to the podium, state your name, and if you wish, your place of residence. We have allotted 15 minutes to this portion of the agenda. We've gone over frequently when the topic is intense, but I'm going to keep it to the 15-minute period, so if you could keep your comments no more than 5 minutes, that should be helpful. Is there anybody that would like to address the commission at this time? Mr. Goode?
Thank you, Commission, for allowing me to speak. I was here last week. My name is Tim Goode. I spoke last week about what's happening in Belfair and Allen with 6 of the 7 allocated retail marijuana stores for the county, either existing or going in there. I wanted to speak to the commissioners this week more about on the revenue side. I feel there's some sort of doubt within you folks that there's actually going to be trickle down, because right now, Randy had said last week that Mason County sees very little of the sharing, and that's because in fiscal year 2016, 2017, it's a $6 million pool. As of 2018, under State Bill 2136, which is passed law, it's not committee, it's law, that's when it changes. I can read from it. It says a portion of excise tax revenues deposited in general fund are shared with counties and cities. Starting no earlier in fiscal year 2018, distributions to local jurisdictions will not occur until $25 million of marijuana tax revenues have been deposited into the state general fund, at which point 30% of the previous year's general fund revenues will be distributed to eligible counties and cities in 4 installments. 30% local distribution is dispersed to counties, cities, and towns, allocated as a portion of state marijuana revenue based on the amount of marijuana excise tax revenues attributed to any licensed retail store within that county, city, or town. The remaining 70% is dispersed based on population, with counties receiving 60% of this allocation, and cities and towns will share the remaining 40%. Local jurisdiction distributions may not exceed $15 million per fiscal year for 2017 to 2019 biennium, and $20 million per fiscal year thereafter. What that means, there is going to be a pot of money that's going to open up in 2018, and that's law. Mason County, of the $6 million, has received $7,329. I understand that that's not trickling down because it's not set to start to really trickle down until 2018. What I brought up last week is, I think I used the fishing analogy. Like, this is Mason County's opportunity to get as many nets in the water to catch fish. And who catches the fish isn't necessarily Mason County's concern. It's that the harvest occurs. And with 6 to 7 stores going in, a 6-mile stretch, in Belfair it's 0.7 miles from the lowest store to the highest. All the fish, again using that analogy, that go up 101 are going to be missed. And so when this revenue pot opens up, those fish aren't being harvested, is what I'm bringing up there. Right now, the weighted average for Mason County on the sales side, this includes TJ Cannabis. This just give an idea of the economic activity in Mason County. It's $311,000 per month, and that's on an upward slope. That's going to increase a large amount as of July 1st when the medical stores are effectively closed. Something I spoke to LCB last week about enforcement, which is curious. LCB is tasked to enforce licensed facilities only. So those folks after July 1st that remain open, these medical stores or whatnot, it then falls to the jurisdictions to police them. The LCB says we're not tasked to police them. So that could be something coming down the pike as well. To give an idea of where the state is, because again, that revenue sharing is triggered once $25 million goes in the general state fund. As this is the weekly marijuana report that the LCB puts out, fiscal year 2016, there's already been $143 million contributed to the general fund. So that $25 million threshold, they've blown past that. So if there's concern that it's going to trickle down to Mason County, there's law that says that it must. And if that's the bottom line, and that's going to be felt in 2018. And so if there's no representation in the areas I've laid out, then Mason County is just letting that revenue go by. And that concerns me. And the other issue that I brought up too.
Mr. Goode, 5 minutes are up, so if you could.
Okay. My other concern is access for medical patients. And I'm putting this forth. I talked to Ms. Jeffries about that Mason County can request that the LCB reallocate from counties that are not using their allocations because of bans. And I'd be happy to speak with any one of you folks individually and to explain.
Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just make one comment. I'm full of comments today, I guess. Mr. Goode, it's the Liquor and Cannabis Control Board. So the word that I like in there is control. And when you look back over the years since 1932 when Washington and other states became monopoly sellers of liquor, they've tried to manage it around the state so that people wouldn't go to Skamania County for liquor or find it cheaper, or they wouldn't go to Seattle to be able to find a particular bourbon or something. So I like the idea that hopefully the state will be able to manage this, because for a county of less than 1% of the population, I hope that we don't become a magnet for retail. I don't think we will, but we're already ranked very high at the counties. I think 4th or 5th in the processing and growing, which is primarily going to be indoors. So it's a new and fascinating industry here in our state. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the commission? Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Commissioners. Tom Davis, and good morning. I'm sorry that you're going to start limiting some of the input from the public simply because this is the only forum that we have left to air our opinions, and sometimes, since we're not professional public speakers, we do go over. With that said, I would like to say that the reorganization of some of the county management operations includes the Department of Community Development and Public Health being basically merged under one directorship, and that causes me some concern. That bell we cannot unring because that's already occurred, and the particular director in mind to oversee those operations, that's already occurred, and you've already got my strong objections as to the process. So now, at this point, I'm looking at it in terms of what that's going to mean. when you join the Department of Community Development and Public Health. How is that going to impact public health? As far as community development is concerned, build a solid community that people want to move to and businesses are going to come here. And that's dependent on the public health policies that you have. People don't move here just to make money. People move here to have a life. So if you want to have a more economic development, you make this a better community, a more healthy community, a more environmental sensitive community. So these two things sometimes run opposite each other. For instance, environmental health sometimes places restrictions on economic development for the safety of the general public. Now that they're going to be under the same directorship, I have some concerns, because that director will take his cue from you, and then he will pass that feeling onto his staff. So what we have is strictly a top-down approach to how the county will be developed, how it will grow, what it will look like. And the public participation from the bottom up has been limited to this forum, as far as I can see. So what we have is and this is not to cast any dispersion on your candidate. I don't know your candidate. All I can tell you is that your candidate for public health, and which is the part I'm concerned about, comes from the Tri-County area, which has a Wisconsin Institute public health rating. One of the counties has 37 out of 39. One of the counties has 38 out of 39, and the other county has a health ranking of 30 out of 39. We have a health ranking of 29. This is not the direction we want to go. So if that's any indication of where we're headed, then I'm vehemently opposed to where we're going. I think that should have been taken into consideration. I think these questions should have been asked, obviously, during the hiring process. We did not get an opportunity to do so. So now I'm airing my concerns about where we're going in terms of public health in this county, and whether the county's public health is going to be subservient to your economic development plans. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to address the commission? Hi, Charles.
My name is Charles Orthman. I'm with the Shelton Poverty Advisory Team and a Great Bee resident. Since my last visit, I know we have a seating arrangement change. You're now the equivalent of the mayoress of Mason County, correct? Yeah. Well, I'll go back to a previous visit when I stated that I was rallied to vote in 2014 by Steve Bloomfield in a radio interview. And that's when I came into possession of documents like this. And I thought, oh, look, it's the Hammer Lady, okay? And in your previous case, right, you said that in 2012 we began collecting a 1/10% sales tax, which leverages Medicaid and leads to projects like this, correct? That's what you were referring to, and that is exactly why I voted for you. So now I'd like to ask, have you received an invitation to our Shelton Poverty Advisory Team meeting?
No.
Okay. We have a meeting tomorrow. We had discussed that previously. I introduced this document to the Poverty Advisory Team, and we have a lot of questions, and I think you'll probably be first to answer our questions and help us to begin to understand how we can make this work in our community.
What time?
Huh?
What time?
3:30 tomorrow, and then we're every other Wednesday. So,
So that would be the first and the third Wednesday.
yeah.
I would love to speak to them.
Okay.
Charles, I don't know if you know, but we plan to schedule on May 24th, I believe, a hearing on reauthorization of the mental health substance abuse tax.
Okay.
We are anticipating, and we're very hopeful that we will have the 5-year plan of both the therapeutic courts
Okay.
as well as the current services and potentially, what could be future services to review and have in front of us as we consider reauthorization of that tax.
Vicki Kirkpatrick has made 2 visits to the Shelton Poverty Advisory Team. She's answered a lot of our questions, but, there's still some unanswered. I speak for myself because I'm kind of a rookie at this stuff. So if you'll help us figure out, what we can do to rally that support and get things moving in the right direction, we'd appreciate it. Okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the commission?
Just one more comment. I cannot help myself. Sorry. Tom, I appreciate your comments about Mr. David Wyndham, who will start as our health director and community
Community
Community Services
Services, yes.
Director. And he has been the director for what you mentioned, the Tri-County area, which I think is Okanagan, Pend Oreille, and Stevens.
Stevens, Ferry, and Congress.
Okay, I got two of them right. Stevens, Pend Oreille, and Ferry, not Okanagan. Okay, Ferry is one, again, another county with only one incorporated city like ourselves. The previous person, I think, it may have been two back, to have that job, went on to become our Secretary of Health at the state of Washington. And she came from an Ivy League background, went to that area, did a wonderful job, and then went on to become the Secretary of Health. That is a very difficult. If you can be a health director for a 3-county region as big as Ferry, Pend Oreille, and Stevens, and deal with some of the issues that they have, I don't think that that's a minor accomplishment. So I did hear wonderful things about David from legislators that are in that area. So he came very well, highly regarded to the job. So we're really looking forward to working with him. And I want to give him all the chance in the world. You know, you should never, there's nothing worse than starting a job and someone having, said something about you and it's not, people make their own way, and I think he'll do very well.
Thank you. Any other comments on any of the items discussed? Thank you. That takes us on to item number 6, the adoption of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I move for the adoption of the agenda as presented.
I'll second the motion, Madam Chair.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carried. Approval of the minutes.
I will move, Madam Chair, to approve the minutes of the briefings held on March 28th, 2016, and April 12th, 19, and 26th. Those are regular meeting minutes.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the March 28th briefing minutes and the April 12th, 19th, and 26th regular meeting minutes. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carried. Item number 8, this is the approval of the action agenda. The intent is to approve these items with one vote. We will read through these items, and if you have any questions, please raise your hand and we will address those questions. Alternatively, you also have the option of asking that any of the items on the action agenda be removed for a separate vote and testimony. We will read through them first, and then you'll have a chance to ask your questions or ask for removal. Commissioner Sheldon, can you please read items 8.1 through 8.3? Commissioner Netherland, 8.4 and through 8.6, and I will read 8.7 through 8.8.
Madam Chair, 8.1, approval to reappoint Robert McKibben to the Board of Equalization for the term ending May 31, 2019. 8.2, approval of the Veterans Assistance Fund applications for utilities, $1,426.04, and housing, $650, for a total of $2,076.04, as recommended by the Veterans Service Office. And 8.3, approval for the board to authorize Public Works to select legal counsel specializing in cable franchises and authorize the county engineer to enter into a personal services agreement with the selected firm.
Madam Chair, item number 8.4, approval for the board to set a public hearing for Tuesday, May 24th, 2016 at 6:30 p.m. to receive public comment for the private line occupancy permit for Scott Bernard, DBA S&S Property Investments, LLC, on Summers Drive for water, power, and telephone lines for parcels number 22032-50-00920 and 22032-50-90921. Item number 8.5, approval of the resolution assigning the administration and fiscal responsibility of the courthouse security program to the Mason County Clerk. Item number 8.6, approval to set a public hearing on Tuesday, May 24, 2016 for 6:30 p.m. to take public comment on the renewal of the 0.1% sales and use tax for chemical dependency and or mental health treatment services.
Item 8.7, approval for the board to authorize the county engineer to submit a pedestrian and bicycle grant application to design and construct a sidewalk along Old Belfair Highway. This project is included in the adopted 6-year Transportation Improvement Program, TIP, using local funds. 8.8, approval of the January 2016 through December 2018 Collective Bargaining Agreement, CBA, for the Teamsters Union Local Number 252, representing Mason County General Services employees. Is there anybody in the audience that has any questions on any of the items just read? Commissioners? Does anybody like any of the items removed for a separate vote and testimony? Mr. Davis?
8.6 for a separate vote, please.
Thank you. Commissioners? Hearing none, I entertain a motion.
I would make a motion, Madam Chair, to approve all the items on the action agenda today, 8.1 through 8.8, with the exception of 8.6.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve items 8.1 through 8.5, and then 8.7 through 8.8. Is there any discussion on any of the items?
I have a comment. I want to thank our county clerk for stepping up and taking on the courthouse security program. It is my heartfelt belief that you are probably one of the most fiscally responsible people we have in this county from all the years that we've been doing this budget. And you're such a pleasure to work with. I think they're in good hands because of that. And when I had spoke to the people that she will be in charge of, they loved it. They just did. You're a wonderful person, and we very much appreciate you, and I just want to say that.
I echo those sentiments. Any other comments? Well, congratulations to our Human Resources Department and Support Services on putting to bed another contract. This is tough work, and it's a consistent
We're not voting on
job.
that, though.
Pardon me?
We're not going to vote on the contract. Let's separate it out. Is that the one you pulled out, or
No,
which one did you pull?
8.6.
Oh, 8.6, I'm sorry. Oh, then I'd like to comment on that too then. I had that confused. No, when we started, we went through heck with the Teamsters, not personally, but just because the budgets, we had some of the contracts that were not signed, and we had to ask them to step up a few years back. People may remember that we had some fiscal problems. They stepped up and accepted a contract where we told them that we won't forget it, and I hope that they feel that we did not forget it and that they were represented well and taken care of well in this, within still being fiscally responsible. I want to give them a special thank you, not just for this, but for the few years ago when we needed it most.
So I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote. If there's no more discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Item 8.6, approval to set a public hearing on Tuesday, May 24th, 2016, for 6:30 p.m. to take public comment on the renewal of the 0.1% sales and use tax for chemical dependency and/or mental health services. I don't know if there's a need to introduce this item.
The one that pulled it, maybe we could ask if he would like to have us introduce it. Would you like us to have a presentation on it first, or you just want an opportunity to comment?
This is just setting the public hearing, so, okay, is there any testimony? We'll open this up for testimony. Did you want to testify? Okay, please do.
Thank you, Commissioners. Tom Davis again. I think most of us know what the 0.1% of 1% sales tax use for chemical dependency and so on. It's kind of self-explanatory, and it's been my pleasure to support that in the past. However, as you know, it's been a little bit of a bumpy road over the past 5 years. As it started out, I chaired that committee for a period of time, and then I resigned the chair because I didn't approve of the way some of those funds were being appropriated. I did not think they should be augmenting anyone's salary. I thought they should be confined to the specific purpose to which they were designed. And I think at this point, Commissioner Sheldon and I were in staunch agreement that money should be used for the purposes that the legislature decided that it should have been used for. And I did not think that was entirely the case. As with any pot of money, you have people who want to get into it, and it's just an opportunity when you do not exhaust it and spend it appropriately and expediently. Then people think, well, it's just sitting there. I'm going to put my 2 cents in and try and take some of the money out of that, and that seems to have been the case with this particular fund. I think this is premature to have a hearing, and at this time, I think first you need the 5-year plan in place before you have a hearing to approve the fund, because right now it's a pig in a poke. I support it, obviously, but I need to know as a citizen, what I'm supporting. So a 5-year plan was supposed to be done. Because of the reorganization of the county, it did not get done. And so we don't have a 5-year plan, so we don't know where those monies are going to be spent, how they're going to be allocated, and in this case, certainly the devil is in the details. The second thing is, it doesn't. This resolution and this plan and this fund doesn't have to be renewed until November. So why are we doing it now?
Can I just interject? We were told by the Department of Revenue that we had to have notice to them by a certain date that whether or not we were going to continue this. I don't appreciate being pushed forward too, but the state's making us do this, just to let you know that.
So the state is saying in May that you have to approve or disapprove this
I
plan?
don't recall the date that we have to let them know whether or not we will be continuing the tax, but we're backing this up on this May 24th date to meet their deadlines, just to let you know. That's what's going on.
Okay, and I appreciate, because that was never, ever discussed during the committee meetings. They always discussed it as we have to have our ducks in a row by November. So this is brand new news to me. With that in mind, then all of a sudden it becomes paramount to know when that date is, because I still would like to see a 5-year plan in place, even if it's just a draft plan prior to this. So I would object to that. I would object to putting it on the agenda until we have some draft 5-year plan in place so we can all support it. And I think it's a worthwhile cause. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you recall the date that Department of Revenue
I
meeting?
don't, except that it's in June.
It's a June date. I can push staff just so hard, or we can as a commission, ask the judges to develop their 5-year plan for therapeutic courts. They're working on that. Lydia Buchheit is leading the development of that plan. She's working on it now. They know that we need to have this plan ahead of us before this hearing. When it will be available, it's a function of pushing staff hard.
Will we have a committee associated with this? That's the way it was designed originally.
The committee, the last 3 meetings of the committee were attended by almost exclusively staff members who are associated with spending the money. It became very, very clear, and they were trying to create policy around this and recommendations. It became very, very clear this was not working. How we disengaged the community members, I don't know. Time, effort, maybe they thought their work was done. So Vicki Kirkpatrick, before she left, had recommended, because substance abuse and mental illness was a piece of the community health improvement plan, that we broadened that. Move the advisory committee to the work of the various groups that are part of the community health improvement plan implementation. Because the monies that are collected, which are not a lot, it's about $500,000, were basically already spent with the existing operations of therapeutic court and the expansion thereof, and intensive case management services, there was no more money to decide what else to do. It was a strong recommendation by Ms. Kirkpatrick before she left that we continue with the intensive case management services, because it was too soon to see whether or not there was any progress, or whether this was something that should be abandoned for something different. I think that there's a tremendous opportunity with the expansion of Medicaid services and mental health and substance abuse services to know that we've got a strong opportunity to expand services in Mason County, and being involved with the behavioral health organization. And if you're interested in mental health and substance abuse services, I would encourage you to apply to be on the advisory committee for that. There is a tremendous energy around bringing those services here in Mason County and expanding them to make more sense for the needs here in Mason County. So these things are not being done in a vacuum at all. There's opportunities to complement them, and in fact we are doing that. Our hopes, if I can get the commission to agree, to use unspent monies in the mental health fund to purchase the facility for a mental health substance abuse diversion house that would be operated by monies that are being allocated from state and federal monies for a mobile response team to help law enforcement and our first responders who come across people, diverting them away from the ER and away from the jail and just getting them into services. There's a lot of work going on that maybe you're not aware of now, and I'd be happy to sit down and talk to you about it. Is there any other testimony on this issue? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Well, Madam Chair, I'm also upset that the Department of Revenue pushes us for such an early date. So, maybe we need time to work on the plan. Maybe we need to push back on the Department of Revenue and with a letter, if we could have it a little bit later, give us more time to put things together. It just doesn't seem like a state agency should interject themselves in a local process, which is this is a legislative body when it comes to hearing from the public and placing something on the agenda for public input and a vote. Would it be worth discussing with the Department of Revenue or writing a letter that pushes back on this mandate that we have the hearing and that early? What do you think?
Madam Chair, with your permission.
Please.
Time-wise, how are we sitting? Are we on the bubble? Can we take another week to?
Can we take a moment and find out the exact date? And I think we're on the bubble here. So maybe the resolution can be read such that if we have time available, we can send a letter.
Well, we could go, that's an idea, though, we could announce the public hearing, then continue it.
That's correct.
We could continue it for another month, 2 months.
That's what I was thinking, because the only thing we're doing is setting up for a public hearing. At that point, we take in the information. If the information isn't there, it's not there. For me, I wasn't here when it was brought in the first time, so I'm going to look at it with new eyes, and I have to make a decision based on what I see now for whether we're going to initiate this process, because it goes away automatically if we do not. So, the only thing we're looking at doing here is setting up the hearing date. So I would be in favor of going ahead and setting up the hearing date, and then if we have an issue where we don't get what we need, we can extend it if we find that we're not on the bubble. But I would hate to lose this opportunity and not be able to do it without at least studying it.
Okay, well, I'd go along with that. I think we need to have several meetings about this, because the first meeting generates a little bit of press, and then it's nice to have that to stir the interest of the public and to come back for another chance to testify and put their input in. I'd like to hear, I'd really like to hear from some people that have benefited from this. If people came in and said, like the drug court, when you go to a drug court, or you hear from the people that you put a face on where has the money gone? Has it helped their family? Are they a recovered addict? Are they a recovered alcoholic? Or are they a productive person in society? I think people like to hear those kinds of things and see what the results are. People don't like to just see, as you mentioned, goes to salaries for staff. So maybe we can round up some personal stories from Mason County. It would be interesting. Yeah. Good.
And I think we find a lot of people that would be willing to come talk about how it has affected their lives.
Yeah,
and I would agree with pushing back on DOR, at least in a letter, and saying I'm guessing they have a timeline of businesses needing to know what the sales tax is in the community that they're serving, and I'm sure it has everything to do with how they report out on sales tax
Except for
levels.
they expect us to collect it all for them and don't give any percentage for our administration of it. Yet, when they do it, they collect a
Such is the
percentage
role
of their
of county
administration.
government.
Funny how that works.
We are the workhorses for the state, but we don't get a
don't
lot
get
of
paid.
respect for it.
Madam Chair, with your permission, I move for the approval to set a public hearing Tuesday, May 24th, 2016, for 6:30 p.m. to take public comment on the renewal of a 0.1% sales and use tax for chemical dependency and/or mental health treatment services.
And I'll second the motion, Madam Chair.
It's been moved and second to approve to set a public hearing on Tuesday, May 24th, 2016, for 6:30 p.m. to take public comment on the renewal of 0.1% sales and use tax for chemical dependency and/or mental health treatment services. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Thank you so much. And thank you for that suggestion about the letter to DOR. We have no public hearings, so we will move on to item number 10. This is board reports and calendars, and an opportunity for us to discuss some issues that maybe we have interest in. Would anybody like to start with their calendar reports?
I'll go through quickly if you wouldn't mind. Last week, I'll just name a couple of the items I was working on, but I did have some conversations with some individuals in North County on our west side of the canal about internet service and telecommunications, and there's some interest working with both PUDs up there on possibilities for better service for the business community and individuals. Did have a chance to go to the sheriff's breakfast, and I want to thank him for putting that on. It was a very interesting discussion about fraud and departmental licensing, and it was very well attended. Brought a friend of mine who is lives in Willow, who's the new executive director of the Quixote facility at Mottman Park, and that's a homeless center where they built small houses.
Yes.
And he is a very accomplished individual with nonprofits, so he's charged with working with the board, a very strong board, and putting all policies together and expanding that. So,
Expanded Coyote?
yeah, I think it's called Quixote.
Don Quixote.
Yep, Quixote Village, and it's gotten some national attention. The New York Times wrote an article about it. So, and he's a guy that can do it. He's very, very accomplished. Had some constituent work, been dealing with the Department of Labor and Industries, of course, and a couple other state agencies here in Mason County. Some of the contractors have been pretty active out in my area on projects that are coming on board. One of the larger projects is at the Ells Hill Trout Hatchery. I was out there yesterday. If you don't know, that's the largest trout hatchery in the state. Huge rearing ponds. They're putting in a 36-inch water line, which replaces a 24-inch water line. It's much of that is above ground, so it goes back to a wonderful big spring. And if trees fall, it'll hit that pipeline and damage it, and then they're at risk of losing all the fish. But they'll bury this pipeline. It'll be a 36-inch diameter pipeline, 3,000 feet long. So that was appropriated by the state a couple of years ago, and there's some other improvements that'll happen, and it's quite a facility that's just tucked away up the Skokomish Valley. So, also, as I mentioned, spent some time with the PUDs, and I heard from some people out at Lost Lake, and a couple other places, coming events where we might be together. Don't know. On the 7th is the Old Timers Fair at Matlock. That's always fun. If it's good weather, there'll be a ton of people. Lou Parsons will bring his steam donkey, and if you don't think it's a lot of work to get a steam donkey ready to go on the road, it is. They've spent a lot of time on this. L&I has to come in and inspect the boiler. It's all volunteers. Loggers are spending time checking the brakes, working on all the pieces of equipment, and when that's set up, it's quite an attraction for those types of events. And then next week we'll be back here.
Thank you. Commissioner?
If you don't mind, before I start mine, I'd like to take a moment and make notice that there's an empty chair. It's been empty a lot lately, but here it is. It will remain empty now. We lost this commission lost a good friend and dear community person with a huge heart. Esther passed away. I was informed of that this morning. You know her from sitting there over and over again since I've been elected. A wonderful, wonderful lady, and I'd just like to take a moment just to think kind thoughts of her, if you don't mind. God bless you, Esther. I met with some folks up there in the north end in regards to trails. They are still alive and well. We're still looking. There appears to be a little bit of a conflict between a couple of projects. We need to point out and remember that even though in government it appears that way, because something else exists does not necessarily mean it has to take from something else. They can coexist and try to move forward, and I think everything's going to work itself out. There's just some internal squabbling. North Mason Chamber Luncheon. Met with also a developer for another business up in North Mason that I wish I could tell you about, but I'm afraid if I did, somebody would try and steal it. And I don't want to steal. I don't want Kitsap or anybody to get them. It's got to be for us. We attended an industrial roundtable with the EDC on value-added courthouse security meeting. A veterans education event with the state, but it actually had a name. What is it?
The state, Washington State Veterans Advisory Council, VAAC.
They came and met here in Mason County. I went on behalf of Commissioner Jeffries. McClendon's had their annual breakfast. McClendon's is a hardware store up in the Belfair area, very much local. There are other McClendon's, but that's a different brother or cousin. This one does have two stores, and they serve pancakes and sausage to the community for free one day a year. They get a bunch of potting soil and plants and stuff like that out. And I'm not one of those people, those who know me, that I don't like doing political things and functions. I got talked into helping them one year, and the most incredible thing is you get to see people that you haven't seen in 25 and 30 years. And that is worth $1 million. And so since I did it 2 years ago, I'll do it forever now. And there's still, I still came across one that I hadn't seen in almost 30 years, and she decided to come back. And it's just a wonderful event. We need to thank McClendon's for keeping local and showing us what it takes to all be friends together. What a wonderful event they have. Greater Peninsula Conservancy, we had our briefings, and then I had the left board meeting this morning. This next week, we have the Hub ribbon cutting, which is the senior center up in North Mason. The ribbon cutting event is tonight, and I will be there, and I would assume that one or two of you will probably be there as well. I'm looking forward to that. It's a great thing for us. I also intend on attending the Old Timers Fair. I had word that this may be their last one. I hope that's wrong, but that the volunteers are having a hard time getting the people to do it. This is one of the only real fairs that I know of where you could still go and get a turkey leg and stuff. It was a real fair. It was really amazing, and they didn't try to gouge you with the money. A shaved ice thing for my kid, I think, cost us like $1.50. It's something that families really can do and afford to do. I hope they find a way to continue because it really is that good. I've got a meeting with the regulatory subcommittee for the EDC. Then we have a meeting with Homes First and our housing, homeless and housing director. I'm not sure what it's in regards to. It's at the request of another commissioner, so I'll find out and I'll know more about it next week to tell you. Then we have a business retention meeting, the women ours. Ribbon cutting event for High on the Hog, Chamber of Commerce, State of the Community. Buck Stop is another business that is has opened up in North Mason. They're going to have a ribbon cutting. We have our Superior Court meeting, and then a briefing, and then a Kilmer event.
Commissioner, where's the event for the ribbon cutting for High on the Hog?
At the Ridge Motorsports.
And
they're going to have the go-karts open and available for us to run.
Oh, okay, and that's on, I may go to that and be there as well. That's like 4:30 Wednesday or something?
It is, yes, 4:30 Thursday.
Thursday? Thursday.
Our mayor is going to be strumming his guitar.
Okay,
That would be
that's what the deal is. Okay, that's, all right.
And I have been challenged by our chamber director for a race in the go-karts, so I have to be there.
Okay, I know what it is. I may be there as well.
Thank you. Following last week's commission meeting, I attended the industry roundtable. You were there as well. These, Commissioner Sheldon, I want to thank you so much for making these possible. The monies that you were able to have appropriated for Mason County in response to the mill closures. This is some of the use of those monies. These industry roundtables have been extremely helpful for me to understand some of the barriers that our industries, our key industries in Mason County are dealing with regarding agriculture and value-added food production. These are more of a federal level issues, but there are the small cattle growers, trying to get their animals butchered and packaged and sold is ominous to them. So they can only butcher them themselves in larger pieces that aren't normally the kind you would sell to even a AM/PM mart or something like that. And so I understand the issue of if one person gets sick, if you're not USDA approved, or if you're not being inspected by USDA and one person gets sick, then everybody goes back to USDA as you're not doing a good enough job. It's a tough situation for these folks, but I know that cattle growers, that was one of the issues that came to the top. The other issue was, I was surprised after having just attended the Future Farmers of America plant sale this weekend. One of the things that they said was that you get these kids that don't want to work hard. And I'm thinking, well, we've got FFA, we've got FHA, we've got all these organizations that are supposed to be training kids in agriculture, and if farmers are having trouble finding hardworking kids, maybe we got to go back down to what are these clubs doing, in my opinion.
It's funny, the one thing he explained, I gave him a shovel and he looked at me, what am I supposed to do?
So we have these active clubs. I don't know what's being taught there, but apparently they're not going to go work for local farmers. I'm on the board of the Community Action Council, and we continue to be looking for opportunities for affordable housing production here in Mason County. They have a model with the Housing Finance, Washington State Housing Finance Administration, Kim Herman's group, that he's got the bonding authority for private investors that want to build these housing, and the Community Action Council is one of those organizations that helps find those opportunities for the private investors. We had a meeting of the Mason Matters Board and the Area Agency on Aging. And then I met with the director, or the staff person for Public Hospital number 2, and toured the Harrison Clinic up there and just learned about what their needs are up there. And I'm hoping that public hospital district will be more active in some of our community health improvement initiatives. And they are starting with making an investment in the Mason Matters, which is a good move. Met with Representative Drew McEwen on a number of issues. And then I will tell you in the community what the meeting with Homes First and our housing program manager. So, as I said earlier in this meeting, I would like to encourage the commission to consider using one-time unallocated mental health tax monies to purchase a diversion house, which would be the a temporary facility to take people who are destabilized, either through substance abuse or mental health, while they're getting hooked up with mental health tax funded, if not Medicaid funded, community intensive case management services. We do use our mental health tax for intensive case management services. This diversion house, they'd probably stay for about 72 hours. It was suggested that Homes First be the owner and operator of the diversion house, so that the county wouldn't have to continue to take care of the facility over the years and that sort of thing. Homes First has a very good model for taking care of their properties, and then we would go back and rent it. And I would like you to have your eyes on that, since you have a tremendous you think outside the box on these types of facility ownership and financial arrangements. And I know Homes First has their program, but if anybody, I'd like to have you take a look at that. And Commissioner Sheldon, if you would have the opportunity at some point, the facility is here in Shelton. It would be right next door to what is hoped to be our veterans housing. Mm-hmm. And so having Homes First own and operate both of those facilities, I think, would be efficient. and
Yeah.
maintain it was
Yeah.
well-run, and it would stay in, should something change as far as needing it for a diversion house, it would stay in the stock of affordable housing.
And you might take a look at the model too for the domestic violence shelter.
Okay.
That was funded through the state, and we had a nonprofit group that helped too.
I'm just curious, are we talking about this year's budget, next year's budget?
The monies are in the fund now.
Okay.
So they're ready to be spent. They're unallocated, it's about $350,000 the home. I won't give you the price on it.
Well, I look forward to hearing about it. I've been very supportive of your endeavors to work towards that.
It'd be a good item for the plan. Obviously, we're talking about a plan for this money, and that sounds like it's something that should be.
And I've asked that that be put in discussion for the plans.
Good.
Okay. Thank you for your interest in and hopefully support on this. Okay, so this week I'm meeting with a number of community members regarding some parks initiatives and some recreational facility initiatives. I will be in attendance of the Hub Grant opening. Congratulations, Patty Kleisten, Faith in Action, 7 years, and you get to open your doors. That group has worked very hard to make this day a reality. I will have the Olympic Regional, the ORCA, Air Quality Group budget meeting, and then I'm hoping to be able to testify in favor of a mental health facility being proposed for the area of Lacey, bringing yet another mental health service provider in the community, which we need. Meeting with, let's see, some potential candidate for Mason County Commission. Oops, just lost my calendar. Hood Canal Coordinating Council Director Scott Brewer. We have our canvassing board. I'll be at the ribbon cutting for High and the Hog at the Ridge. And then another canvassing board meeting, and I will present the state of the county at the Chamber of Commerce State of the Community events, and then a behavioral health organization's agenda planning meeting. I'm back here for commission briefings. We start at 8:30 on Monday, just to remind you gentlemen, and then our commission meeting on the 10th. Are there any other items?
Just that I won't be able to attend this next Olympic Region Clean Air Authority meeting. I know we had Fran McDare, the director, out here, but that's on next Wednesday.
Yeah, and that's another of our industry roundtables, and like I said, these have been so valuable to me that
We have one coming up on a Tuesday when we have a meeting on shellfish, isn't it?
No, the shellfish ones have been done.
What's the meeting? I'll look up. I got a little card at home. And then I want to mention that I did write, as a senator, I wrote a recommendation letter, got it off yesterday for the mental health facility.
Then we found out that after we had made this recommendation, so what happens is that these, the state of Washington, one of their divisions, issues a certificate of need.
Yes.
And so this is what the hearing is around and what they're seeking approval for. Found out late in the game that Providence Health Services is also going to be requesting a certificate of need for an 85-bed facility. So now there's some opposition.
Well, this always happens in convalescent care as well.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so that's the model that they're using is convalescent care. And as soon as someone researches it, does all the marketing and the demographics and everything, and comes up with the idea that there's others that surface. So it's not unusual. So I think the letter was sent, and I'm very much in support of a facility in Thurston.
Right, and not having seen Providence proposal because it's not even out there, one of the things I'm very encouraged about this one is that they plan to open a detoxification center, medical detox center, which, if you don't know, we have no access, nearby access to any detox facilities. So this is very much needed. Is there anything else?
For me.
And I would entertain, I apologize. So electeds and department heads, here's your opportunity to address the community. No? Okay.
Thank you again, Madam Clerk.
And I would entertain motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.